I know some of you are like, wait, what's going on? So today's service is a little special, right? We have our White Stone ceremony. And so I'm going to share with you a few words, and then afterwards is when we're actually going to be doing our meditation. And I'm really excited and touched that as part of the meditation, we're also going to invite you to be anointed with some oils that we have here. And so this is a really wonderful, special service and a great way to kick off the new year. Now, before I continue, though, I do want to say, so some of you may not be familiar about what spirit groups are. And so let me share with you that spirit groups, it's about 6 or 7 weeks where people come together in homes or virtually, focus on a specific book. And Reverend Anna mentioned that we're using the Deepak Chopra book, Living in the Light. And I want you to hold a vision, because normally we have about 100 or so people that join our spirit groups program, which is amazing in itself. And we're going to kick off this program just a couple of weeks after we have about 900 people at the Deepak Chopra event. And so we really are inviting you to join us as hosts. You're really just a host. You're helping move along the book study, and you have the questions that we provide to you. But can you just hold a vision of hundreds and hundreds of people that may never have been to a Unity on the Base service joining our spirit groups after that Deepak Chopra event and realizing the power of this community? Can you feel that? Can you see the potential and the opportunity in it? And you get to be a part of it. So really check in and let us know if there's even an inkling of you wanting to be one of our hosts. Now, I was looking up jokes for the new year. And can you believe that there was one that actually just said, this year I promise not to make any corny jokes. Said all dads everywhere. And I felt attacked. So I've got one for you, and let's see if this is the right way to kick off the new year or something that we're just going to have to grow through this year, okay? Knock, knock. Who's there? Radio. Radio not, it's the new year. Isn't it wonderful to know that as new things come about, some things stay the same? All right, I got another one. This one you've heard before, but you know, when somebody needed a boat made, what did the people in the town say? I know a guy. It's getting worse? Okay. All right, let's just move on. Maybe that's the motto for the new year. When something's not, let's just move on. But so today, as part of our White Stone ceremony, we really are here to acknowledge the power of having a new name, holding a new name, asking ourselves how we want to be called, how we want to call ourselves. Because this is really about recognizing that who we have been is not who we are. And we have a chance as we begin this new year of really putting a vision out there of what we want to embody, how we want to show up in this new year, how we want to show up in the world for ourselves and for other people. And how we call ourselves, the name that we allow ourselves to receive, is a really important and beautiful piece of that. Actually, in the Bible, there are many instances where a renaming is really an expression of recognizing that there's been an awakening, that something has shifted within us, within the people of the Bible. And so, for example, Abram, once he had his awakening experience, started to be named and called Abraham, which meant father of many, as God had promised him to be. Sarai, which meant actually quarrelsome, when she had her awakening, became known as Sarah, which means princess. The same from Saul to Paul, Paul being humble, which is totally the opposite of what Saul, the tax collector, was. And then Simon, when he listened, Simon means listen, he listened to Jesus, to trust in him, to follow him. And as he did and had his awakening and his spiritual journey took place, at the end was named Peter, which means rock, solid in that faith. And so the question for all of us is, what sort of awakening experience are we ready for? What is taking place in our hearts? What is taking place in our minds? What are we allowing ourselves to really step into in this very moment? Not tomorrow, not, in November when we look back on our 2023 intentions, like which ones do I still need to check off? But this very moment, what are you ready to be rebirthed into? And in that, what can we use as a way of reclaiming or claiming this new destiny and this new way of being? And in society, we have a lot of this, right? Because names or titles mean something. A captain, moms, dads, grandparents, brother, sister, colonels, chiefs, right? Like there's all these titles and names that we give people to signify who they are and what they're about. This new year is a new us. Like really take that in, really acknowledge the power of being in this place of saying, I am ready, I am open, I am willing to step into a new way of being, one that maybe I had envisioned, but I wasn't ready for. But today, we get to claim that we are, in fact, ready. Imelda Shanklin, one of our Unity writers, said, someday you will become wholly awakened to your divine identity and will begin to consciously take on the image of perfection. In this moment, how much of your divine potential are you ready to claim? And when you think about what this new year is going to be and this new you is going to be, how much of that is based on the way in which God sees us? How much of that is based on our divine identity, and how much of it is based on a false way of seeing ourselves by the judgments and limitations that we have placed on ourselves? If you look at some of the resolutions that we have, which are wonderful, right? Like some of mine, which if you've been around New Year's Eve services before, you've heard them because I kind of have it every year, but lose weight, right? But, like stepping into new roles, stepping into new ways of being, like whatever your intentions are, they're wonderful to have. And are they the reason or the things that you will be defining yourself from? Or resolutions, visions are supposed to help us and anchor us, but are we going to define ourselves and are we going to identify ourselves by our own divinity? By the very power of God that resides in us, by the very activity of that Christ consciousness that this morning and this year, we have been given a new opportunity to embody more fully. Now, in a couple of days, for example, we're going to be celebrating New King's Day, right? The Three Kings Day. And the Three Kings really followed this North Star to see what was going on, to go into and recognize that Christ's presence that had been born. And I love that we have first, we celebrate Christmas, the birth of that Christ essence within us, that reminder of that. And then we get to, okay, well, now that we are claiming that rebirth for ourselves, we kick off to a new year. And then with the Three Kings Day celebration, we are reminded that we can bring all of ourselves into this new light that is being birthed in us. And the Three Kings followed this North Star. I mentioned this yesterday for those of you who are a part of our New Year's Eve service. Having the vision, right? Yesterday we created a vision of who we are to be, how we are to be in the world, what is God's greatest vision for ourselves. And so we have this vision that is pulling us. I love when Reverend Anna was talking about the part of the release is being able to then let go of some of that weight so that we can lift ourselves up and lift our vibration up to the space of spirit. And so we have this vision that pulls us, and we make ourselves lighter to be pulled into that vision. And then today we get invited to have that North Star, That's how I see the white stone and the new name that we're going to receive today. What is the North Star? In order for us to fully live into that vision, what is it that is going to carry us there? What is it that's going to support us in being able to step into it? And so as we look at that life that we want to have in the new year, a life of gratitude, yes. A life of abundance, yes. A life of love, a life of recognizing the blessings and the miracles in our lives and the blessing and the miracles that we get to be in the world. Well, that's a wonderful intention and a wonderful vision. How are we going to anchor ourselves in our truth so that we may not be swayed when challenges come up, when life begins to happen in a way that we may not have recognized or not seen, or maybe not even wanted it to happen, and yet we can be anchored. And I love the white stone ceremony for that, because it is an anchoring that takes place and it comes from within us. What are the steps that you can take to be able to live into your truth? From Revelation, which is where we get this ceremony, Revelation chapter 2, verse 17, it says, "Let anyone who has an ear listen to what Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone. And on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it." This Bible verse says a lot. First, it says, let anyone who has an ear listen to what Spirit is saying. And it says the churches, right? Well, we know that we are the church of God. We individually are that church of the Holy Spirit and that Christ's presence. And so this verse really invites us to recognize that there are different ways in which we can listen. We can have our ear to what is going on in the world of senses, and we can choose in this very moment to open up more fully that inner ear, to listen to the wisdom of God that is in us, to listen to the guidance of God that we know is a part of our truth. And so, where do we want to listen? How do we want to listen? And how can we, in this very moment, open up our ears more fully to be able to listen to the beautiful music that I believe God is singing in us? And then it goes into talking about to everyone who conquers. What is it that you want to conquer in this new year? There is something that I believe all of us can really conquer. Something that we need to and can move through. Maybe you have to conquer a fear that you've had. Maybe in order for you to really live into your vision, there is a fear or a distrust or a negative judgment that you've held about yourself that must be conquered, that must be done away with. That, well, like I shared with you a couple of Sundays ago, right? Like when it starts to come up, that fear, that judgment, like that's the old me. It's not the new me. That's 2022, Juan. This is 2023, Juan. Anchored in faith, anchored in the way of being, anchored in the God of my being. And so we can develop this inner listening quality by simply being in the stillness, by taking a moment, taking a breath. I'm going to invite you to just do that in this moment. Just take a deep breath with me. It's as simple as that. In the midst of the world, in the midst of the challenges, in the midst of the beautiful miracles in our lives, to be able to just take a moment to breathe and to listen. And sometimes we'll hear words. Sometimes we just listen to the silence, to the pause, to the energy that already is. And I really invite us this new year to recognize that we are overcomers. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the way that we have already overcome. If you think back on 2022 and even beyond that, the many different challenges that we have experienced, and here we are. Here we are, regardless of those challenges, or maybe as a result of those challenges, being ready to say, I am willing, I am open, I am receptive, and I am listening, God. I am here listening. And the more that we listen, I really believe that we can be a living testimony to the power of God. That our stories of overcoming can be somebody else's survival guide. Because through the miracles and the ways in which we experience God and the way we show up in life, we can be that light for others when they may not feel like they have enough to be able to overcome what is coming their way. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather a spirit of power and of love and of self-discipline." This morning, can you claim that you have a spirit of power? Can you claim that you have? I love that. Thank you. Let's follow through. Remember what I said? We can be somebody else's, we can be that testimony, right? So thank you for that testimony. And can we claim that we have the spirit of power within us? Can we claim that we have the spirit of love? And the moment that we can claim those things, the moments that we can listen to God and we are saying yes to fully listening this year, is the moment that we get promised manna, which is that spiritual nourishment. That spiritual nourishment that only comes from when we make ourselves anchored in God. See, so many times we are in the wilderness, and a lot of times it was in the wilderness when Moses was taking the Israelites into the promised land that we first start talking about manna being that which fed the people. So we may have been in the wilderness, right? Like that may have been our past few years. That may have been last week. And we can already claim that we are beyond the wilderness, that we are beyond that which caused us to feel separate from God, and that we are ready and willing to receive the spiritual nourishment that comes from claiming our truth and claiming that God is our center, is our being. Jesus actually spoke of this manna in John chapter 4, verse 32. He says, "I have food to eat that you do not know about." Well, isn't it time for us to claim that we know it? That we know what that spiritual nourishment is, that we know how that spiritual nourishment is first, is primary, and then from that, it trickles into all areas of our lives. Maybe the vision is a better job. Maybe the vision is an intimate relationship. Well, first, the spiritual nourishment that comes from being centered in God, and then it trickles into every other area of our life. The second promise in that scripture is the white stone. And that's what this ritual is about, right? Receiving that white stone. And the white stone is actually an ancient ritual. It goes back to the times of Jesus. And there's a couple of different ways in which it showed up. One of the ways is that when somebody, went to jail, basically, and was imprisoned, the moment that they came out of prison, they were given a white stone to signify that they had paid their dues, that they had paid their time, and people didn't need to judge them for it, right? Have you paid your dues? Yes. Have you paid your time in the wilderness, in the thoughts of lack and limitation, in the awareness or the lack of awareness of our connection with God? Haven't you paid enough? Haven't you done it enough? Don't you want that white stone to say, yes, I am free in this moment from the past. I am free from the limitations. I have paid my time and I am ready to receive my freedom. That is what the white stone signifies for us today. Here's another way the white stone was used in ancient times. The Greeks actually would, when they would take votes, they would either use a white stone or a black stone. Black stone meant no. White stone said yes. Are you a yes this morning? Are you a yes this year? The third promise was then that new name. And again, it's a very sacred thing. And the Bible shows us how it signifies an awakening, something that is, basically makes us new. And God, we know, makes all things new. The moment that we allow it fully into our hearts, the moment that we allow it to be what guides us in our lives. As Abram, as I mentioned, had this spiritual awareness of whose he was and what he was meant to do in the world, he became Abraham. The same with Simon becoming Peter. The question is, who will you be now that you have said yes? Now that you have claimed your freedom? And now that you are willing to say, I have had that awakening experience. I will not let my ego say otherwise. I am simply now just going to live in the light that I know I have birthed into the new world. And it's really about surrendering to that spirit and taking on that identity of who we are, that new name, so to speak, to really anchor us, to make us really aware. And I love that it's on a stone. I was thinking about that this morning. It's on a stone, and I think, Anna, you actually said it earlier. You said it's set in stone. This new name that we have, it's set in stone. How powerful is that it's so set in stone that regardless of what may happen in our lives, we are anchored in it. That regardless of how others may show up or how we may fall short here and there in the new year, that we are anchored in it. It is set in stone. Nothing can keep you from it. Nothing can take it away from you. And nothing can keep you from believing that this is the North Star that will guide you into the vision and the future of heaven on earth. Adashanti says it is important for us to realize that we must not only have the courage to recognize the divinity within ourselves, but also embody it and manifest it in the way that we live. You are a courageous people. We are a courageous people. It takes courage to be at Unity, to recognize that in our own divinity and in our own journey. I've said this to you before. Spirituality is not for the faint of heart, because it says that we take responsibility for embodying our truth and for manifesting it into the world, for creating the experience and that essence of heaven on earth. But we are it. We have that courage. It's alive in us. I see around the room the power that each of us has. And in this moment, we're going to receive that word on our white stone that will always, throughout 2023, remind us of that power. Following our North Star is how we are then pulled into the vision. And it's how we allow ourselves to be in the flow of limited substance, which we know God to be. We are not the same as we used to be. In my case, thank God. And we are exactly who we need to be in this moment in time to receive what that word that will take us to be that which we were always meant to be. And so I'm going to invite you to just take a breath as we begin to move into our meditation. Thank you so much for visiting our YouTube channel. We post new videos every week to keep you positive, present, and inspired to your divinity. Please click on the subscribe button below and also that notification bell. Remember to share this with your friends and your family, those that you know will be inspired just like you have been. And always remember that we love you, that we bless you, that we behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things. Thanks and take care.